How's it going, guys? We are back with the second iteration of the Ultimate Trainers Tournament, hosted by Beardy Bennett, Commissioner of the UTL. It's also been like 3 weeks since I made a video, so hope you guys enjoy this. It just gives me something to do. I am not going to be doing recaps of any battles I do because I suck at battling, so we're going to work on analysis. So this took me a dickload of time to make, mostly because I merged like 3 docs that had 0 things in common as far as formatting. So we had like renames to shit and add pictures and whatnot. So we finally got it. This ranks teams in a very crude way. So my method for ranking teams is roughly the teams were randomized, 8 mons, and then you got some sort of hazard removal and hazard setter. So for example, Newman got Mudbray as a setter and either Scizor or Articuno as defogger, something like that. So there's some balance there. But the way that it's ranked is I took every mon, I looked at all 107 fucking mons or something plus every form, and I looked up their Smogon tier and I gave a number for that, and it's not like a 1, 2, 3, 4, it's a little bit weighted. Because LC, the jump between LC and like NFE and PU is kind of large, so there's a little bit more de-emphasis on something that's LC. So like I think Meryl's worth 0 points, whereas something that's OU or Ubers would be worth 8. And the same thing applies for base stats, and so every mon's base stat was weighted. The average was I think 4, and then like the top, I think starters were given 7, I think was like the value for like a starter base stat. And then I took the maximum of those, so if the points for like being an OU, if you're an OU or an 8, but since there's like a mon like Clefable that has horrible base stats but is really good in practice, I gave it the benefit of the doubt with the Smogon tiers, whereas there's mons like, I'll look at my team a little bit later, I have a Guzzlord. Guzzlord has really good base stats but is also dog shit. So we're going to be looking at the stats, because if we're on a tournament with a bunch of random bullshit, it's going to be a little bit more hard to break Guzzlord, so it's maybe going to have a little bit more NU, a little bit better than what the NU or PU value that it is. But anyways, we're going to get into the teams. I'm going to have to go through these really fast. Newman's literally only has a Scizor to his name. The Lipo would be good for speed control. His hazard removal options are abysmal. Electros would be good for some slow pivoting. Mudbray can actually be a pretty decent LC mon. So even though it's ranked, that's at 28 for like total points, I don't think that it's that bad. I think Scizor is a little bit underrated too, because I think it's granted like 7 points for it being UU instead of the base stat, and I think it's worth a little bit more than that, as we've seen it has success in OU. So I think that if Scizor can be the MVP, another thing is there's gonna be a lot of packing text because it is an 8-mon tournament. So it's a little bit easier to decide what to put Hidden Power Fire and what mons. So I think that quad weaknesses are a little bit more difficult in these kind of tournaments. So it'll be interesting to see. All Faith in Newman, a member of House. Next we have Prism King Estu, who I have no idea who that is. And his best mon is Zoroark. So this team is actually bad. I think it's a little bit more evenly distributed than Newman's team, but overall, like Acilio is kind of like, it'll have some value as like a bulk, and then the fire and ice switch him with Thick Fat, which might help for Izzion. His head removal is Glaron, Camerupt, and Altaria. I think Wigglytuff also gets rocks, so I guess he has hazard setting potential there that might be able to break down for Izzion or Zoroark or a Life Orb Haunter late game. But the defensive options are actually abysmal. The Camerupt and Altaria are quad weak. The Haunter is frail as a duck. The Lairon's also quad weak. There's a rather large fighting weakness here with immunities in Haunter and Altaria. So this team is lacking compared with the teams a little bit later down the line. We'll move on. Next is Duples, with also tied with 29. We have 4 29-point tier. This one's also lacking with like a true star. This team I actually think is a little bit more lacking than Estu's team, as it's a lot more lower tier mons, but not NFE or LC mons. So The web's concept on this will be really nice, since all of his attackers are relatively slow. His fastest mon, I believe, is Rotom Frost at 88. Maybe Vigoroth is a little bit faster. I think it might be 90. I'm not really sure. The Shiinotic can be cool, but I don't know how much it'll work for this team. I think the Dragalge Shiinotic core actually looks pretty nice. I think they synergize pretty well, and both are amazing, especially defensive walls, and that can work well with Dusclops, which can be a pretty good physical wall, and then along with Krokorok, which can get Intimidate. The defog options are Piss Poor with Rotom. The rocking option is Piss Poor with Krokorok. So, not expecting too much from this team. The next team is the Brain 05. If he can get a Trick Room up, he has two very common mods in Trick Room. I think Malamar's a Trick Room mon. Lumineon's a defogger, I guess. Delabird's a defogger, I guess. Shelmet is a good stacking option. Again, there's no breaking potential in this team. His highest attack, I think, is probably Heliolisk Special Attack, which isn't really that good, but it should be able to have some sort of defensive options, and Malamar's not a... If you don't prep well for Malamar, it's still going to fuck you up. Luckily, we ban all Omni Z-Boost moves, but that's all I have to say. So we're going to run the last 29-point team. It's surprising for how... I guess the Rock and Roller probably weighs it down a lot, because I think Rock and Roller is just a 0 mon, so it's probably not going to be brought. Lydian's also pretty shitty. So the first 6 mons are probably going to be the main focus of this team, and I think they're pretty good for focus. Marshtomp is a decent rocker, probably on the same par as... it's probably bad, but for this kind of format, it's alright, I guess. I shouldn't say that things are shit or not, because you don't get a whole lot of like stud OU mons. Like, I think somebody got a Clefairy or a Clefable, and they're like, nah, we're gonna put this as a Clefairy. The Golbat's an amazing defogger in the format, and not a whole lot's gonna be able to break it on each team. The Xurkitree is going to be a decent setup option. The Combusken's going to be a decent setup option, so he can probably break down water types with the Xurkitree pretty early game, or the Drampa, and then sweep with the Combusken later on. And then you get some pivot options with, I think Ladian hopefully gets U-turn, otherwise, dear god, that mon's so bad. And then the U-turn on the Golbat. So overall, I think that's decent. It's just kind of limited in what mons it's going to be able to bring on a game-to-game basis. Next we have Nacho, Detroit Terravolt. This team is also pretty lackluster. The Plusle is pretty shit. Quilladin's an alright. I think it gets the same spike stacking, spiky shield stuff that Chestnut gets. So that'll be alright. Starmie's, going to be really good as a rapid spinner. I don't like Chestnut and Throw as your defensive options. Cubone's going to be, or Marowak's going to be an alright rocker on par with Marshtomp and Krokorok. Oh dear god. But Tauros is a really underrated mon in the Draft League format, so I think that will be able to pull through at least one game. The spike stacking option in Frostlass is always really good, plus Ice and Ghost, you don't have a lot to switch in for when you draft your own team, let alone if somebody else drafts your team for you with a randomizer. So if you let your water type get weakened down, which he doesn't have the best time weakening down water types with Quilladin and Plusle, but if you can weaken down the water type, then Frostlass can be a problem too. Moving on to Dominic. He has a bad team. Raikou's there and not a whole lot else. Sableye is going to be an annoying ass mon to face. Muk was pretty good in the last gen, but I haven't heard anything about it this gen, because Alolan Muk is just years better. Light years, parsec, I don't know what the term is. His rocking option is Alolan Dugtrio, which is kind of ass. The defog option is Dartrix, which is kind of ass. I guess Dartrix is probably better than Quilladin. It's still taking 25. No, it's not taking 25. It's taking 12.5 because grass resist rock. Don't fact check me on that. I like that this team has a support option with Aromatisse. I can help with the Gale Wing support for the Fletchinder, which will be really good for like Zeev, Brave Bird, and then to Brave Bird, and then you can Wish support it back up, and then it can do Brave Bird again and still have all this Gale Wings bullshit. So that team should be nice. Chomp G, Garchomp the God, whatever he wants to go by. I just did that on accident. I'm so sorry. Won't happen again. The Tyranitar is really fucking good. Like it has a quad weakness, but if you're packing like HP fighting Etamon and it has sand up and your best special attack is like 95 base special attack or something, and you're doing a hidden power fight, it's not going to do anything. So you either have to have a strong special attacker or strong physical attacker with fighting coverage, or a fighting type in general, and not every team was allotted that. So Tyranitar is going to be annoying. It also has a okay time. So like a lot of the powerful options are like mons that you can see breaking through a rock dark type are also outsped by Tyranitar. So like I was just seeing like a Dragalge can put off a strong focus blast and be able to handle it, but the Tyranitar is obviously faster and can get a Earthquake off. So that's not a perfect option, but there's also a lot of ways around the Tyranitar, as we've seen from the last 5 gens. Stunfisk is actually an alright stealth rocker compared to a couple other things we've seen. I think his defog option is Whimsicott, which is nice. I've been really liking Whimsicott in NU, and can be a surprisingly great mon and a decent special attack or a decent utility or an above average utility mon. And that can help support his team. Dragonair is kind of useless. Clang is kind of, that's Clang. Clang is alright, I guess. I think there's a lot of options here. I think you can switch into most things, like Psychic, Fire, Water. It can switch into, I guess Ice it can switch into. So it has a couple of responses like Bolt Beam, Edgequake, stuff like that. So I think overall that's a good team. Next we have Andy with I guess a Trick Room team. This team is actually garbage, and this actually might be one of the worst teams so far. The special attacking option the special defense option is there with Regice and Comfey. Oranguru is not a mon. FJ Kinglers is a mon, otherwise kind of. That's not a Mega Beedrill, so you're gonna have issues there. Stuffle is not a mon. What's your Rocker? Rocker is Alolan. That's not good. That is not good, my guy. So we just went from probably the best team we've seen so far to maybe the second worst team. I'm still not in love with, I think it was SG's team. So I'm sorry, Andy. We'll move on to Slayerhofen, which has a pretty annoying ass team. As a PokeMMD will shout in your ear that Flame Body Ponyta has broken in LC. It has the evolved version of stuff, which is Beware, which is also another physical wall. So those two are really good. Gigalith is also another physical threat, and then you have a fucking Chansey on the special side. So this team's going to be really fucking hard to break through. I think it has overall a terrible time messing with fighting types, because your switch-ins are Decidueye, which if it gets like a knockoff prediction wrong, then you're in trouble. And the Flabebe, or not even Floette, that's not Eternal Floette, I hope not. Which again is piss poor physical defense. So I think physical attackers are going to have an advantage against this team. Next is one Emkin Danice. I have no idea how to say your name, my dude. Actually, I think I play you first. That's a Pikachu there. There's a Drowsy, that's awful. Unfezant's one of my favorite mons of Gen 5. Gen 5 is a mistake, but Unfezant is a annoying mon to come out of it, but I love it. Neolago's a bitch. If it got Earthquake, it would be busted. The Lapras is something that you have to look out for. The Chestnut's something you have to look out for. Pikachu is going to be decent, as it's like one of the first faster electric types we've seen. The Bouffalant is a breaker that we haven't seen so far yet. So I think this team has a lot of offensive options. It also has setup options in Chestnut and Pawniard, which aren't the best, but they're there. And also Neolago can do it through Beast Boost. So overall, I think this team is pretty good. I don't know if it's better than Slayerhofen's, but it's good in a completely different direction that Slayerhofen's is, and I don't think there's any critical weaknesses, I guess flying type might be an issue since its only switch in is Neolego, which also is not a decent physical check to anything. But anyways, we're going to move on to Sean's, and this team is actually not that good. Your ground switch in is Sceptile, which gets bonked by anything else. I guess that's really your only speed too. Like it chops off immediately after that, like good god. If this team had any sort of Trick Room option, which I don't think it does, it would be alright because Carbonite is really good under Trick Room. Behemoth's really good under Trick Room. Turtonator can 1v1 every Pokemon in the metagame, so that's alright. Whirlpool will be a decent hazard stacking option. It could be like a Sash lead with the Endeavor and then 2 types of hazard stacking, Protect. Wait, no, it doesn't get Speed Boost. Aggron could be a nice suicide lead too with Head Smash and Stealth Rock. So this team, I think you have to get shit done fast with this team and just constantly put up pressure, otherwise it's just going to be an L. Next into Pythons. Sandygast isn't a Pokemon. The Hakamo is kind of shitty. The defensive Tentacruel and the offensive Honchkrow and Magmortar will kind of have to carry this team, I think. I think Hypno allows Wish support, which will be nice, since the bulkier, he has some bulky options on his team, but they don't have, what am I thinking of? They don't have recovery at all. So the Tentacruel can get worn down easily, Magmortar can get worn down easily, the Mawile can get worn down easily. So I think some sort of Wish support would be helpful for this team. Granted, Hypno's bottom tier Wish passer, but you know, that's what you got, man. But I think Mawile is a stealth rocker, right? He doesn't have to rely on Sandygast, which is nice, and then he has a top tier removal in Python, or Python says top tier removal in Tentacruel. So this team is getting pretty good. I think it's better than all the 29, 28s. I don't know if it's better than the 30s though. So moving on to West, this team is also pretty bad. I think this team actually fits in like the 29 range. Togekiss is probably his best mon. He has some pivoting. He has a Volturn Crow, I guess, and Progly and Zipstrika. I hope that Pineco and Love aren't broad, unless there has to be some whack reason why those are broad. I guess just Explosion, or it can be like Spike Stacking. Lycanroc Midnight's not a really good hazard option, so that's gonna be like a 5-mon Brain game, but those 5 mons are okay. Incineroar can be underwhelming at times, but overall I think it fits its role pretty well. Zipstrika is a little bit underwhelming, but fits its role pretty well. Togekiss exceeds its role amazingly. Next team is Jinkinator, and this team has nothing. It has a regular Lopunny, a Shell. Oof. Yeah, so Breloom's gonna have to do something, otherwise this team's just gonna get bopped. Rocks are kind of an issue for this team, because there's no recovery on this team, and you have something like Butterfree, which only job is really a setup sweeper. If it's taking 50 from Rocks, if every time that fucking what's his face Rotom has to come in, it's taking Rocks damage. Muk doesn't really like to be worn down. The Probopass doesn't want its Sturdy to get broken. So I think that team's gonna have some issues. Mad, the Substar, he's starting off at 32s. Mighty Anna's a stupid Pokemon. I don't think it's gonna work out well. The Aerodactyl is gonna be a little bit threatening for this league just because of its speed alone. The offense can be underwhelming at some points, but if you're facing a lot of like NFE and PU mons, I think it can be a really good fast sweeper. The Gardevoir also in the same regard, and I think it's a little bit undervalued. And Jolt showed us the full utility of that mon earlier this season. I think he got brought to like every single game, or like 11 games in his GBA stint. I don't even like Machamp, so Machamp isn't really for me. If you go to the Gen 5 equivalent, like Girder would be a lot better, but you know, you didn't get Girder. The Arcanine's gonna be really like a pain in the ass to break. There weren't a lot of stronger ground types or water types so far. So I think as a bulky option, Arcanine is just going to be horrible to phase. And fire option or offensive options, I'm not really too sure. We'll wait and see to see how Matt uses it. We can move on to class, Lehigh, Valier, and Pignites. This team, luckily it has Kamala with it, because Gyarados is kind of useless if it's not, like, if it's a defog team, it would be kind of a pain in the ass. The Go-Goat actually works well with the Rhydon for Alligator. So luckily that's a lower tier mom that he got. I think the hazard access that he gets in Spikes and Glalie, Toxic Spikes and Sticky Web with Ariados, and then Stealth Rock with Rhydons works really well. Unburden Setup Sweeper with Driftbloom, and then a regular Setup Sweeper for Alligator. Doesn't really have much as far as wall breakers, which kind of sucks. So he'll just have to he'll have to find some way to break down his mons, even if that's with one of his Setup Sweepers early game, or with like a Go-Go to wear down like water types for Alligator, Freeze Dry with Glalie. Grass types, I guess he has a problem with, except for I don't know if Go-Go can 1v1. I don't know if he has Mega Horn. He used the Zazzle set with the Z-Bounce that he showed and make part of the GBAD League. We'll see how it works. Jar has a Sea King, so he's going to win this league. The Passimian, Minitrick, and Archeops are a really good offensive core. The Houndoom should be able to put in work. He'll find some way to make Spritzy work in a round of it. But overall, besides Spritzy, I think this team is a really good team. Defog options are... Defog is lacking. I'm not really sure what his rocker is on this team. Archeops is rocks, yeah. But hopefully he doesn't bring Rock Archeops every week. Because I think he can just prove some utility. And that with being a late game, some sort of Edgequake user. The pecking order with Mr. AJ has a bad team that gets carried by Tangrowth. Scyther can be alright, Delusion can be alright. Both are kind of lackluster setup sweepers. He doesn't have any breaker at all. I think this is probably a team that should be in the 20s, but is just carried by one good mon. Yeah, just a lot of duds. He has a Wish Pass on Kangaskhan, but it can't really pass into a whole lot because his defensive mons already get recovery and his offensive mons are kind of too frail to get Wish Passed into. So this seems going to cause issues. Obviously, I trust Peck. I don't know why I'm calling him Peckmore. That's why I trust AJ. I have some trust in AJ to get past in a round or two, but we'll see how that works out. Dilbert. Does he have a mon over RU? Yeah, this seems bad too, but there's no real bad mon. Like, he doesn't have a 0-point mon, I guess. I think that might count as one. He has a breaker, I guess, in Sawk. But yeah, this team's also a 20-point team, or a team in the 20s. I don't think it's as bad as AJ's, but yeah, this team's gonna have trouble breaking through teams as well. What's his defog options? Murkrow. Yeah, this team does not work for me, man. This team does not work. Scrappy Time, what do you got? You got some good shit. Trapinch can be a trapper. I don't know what it's going to trap for the rest of your team. Immaculate Firewater Grass Core. Does he have Fairy Dragon Steel? No, he just has Dragon. What's removal? Cryogonal and Smeargle are good setters, removers. It'll just have to see if like Trapinch can be a trapper, and then try to sweep with like a Poliwrath or a Torterra. I think the offense is underwhelming, the defense is underwhelming, but it's still not terrible. That's not great, but not a whole lot of these teams are great. Next we're Perfect Blue, who has a great team if you're in Gen 6. Unfortunately, Talonflame is a little bit hindered in Gen 7. Avalugg is a decent spinner, so maybe they'll be able to help. Bisharp is his rocker, which is annoying. I think maybe Golur can be a rocker. I think it can also be hazard removal. I think he gets rapid spin. That's a good spin blocker too. So making a Chip Town teams for Bisharp and Talonflame to sweep. Lickitung is an annoying defensive mon. Grumpig's useless. Frogadier is underwhelming, but can be a decent pro team on. But like even with pro team like Life Orb, it's not going to do a whole lot. Speed's underwhelming too. So I think there's a couple dozen of this team, but overall the team works in kind of some sort of way. It'll just be dependent on like what he's facing in the setup, and see if Talonflame Bisharp can win that. Mr. Blep has a Dugong, which is busted. Heatran will be annoying to break in this league for the same reasons that I mentioned about Tyranitar. Volbeat's a really reliable. I think I put this as like an NU. I'm not even sure if it's a PU option. I'm not sure if it's banned in Little Cup, but it was broken and I didn't want to look at every single form's official tier. Hariyama's going to be a bitch to break in this league unless you have a Talonflame. Executor can wall a Zygarde, so that's pretty busted. I think the defensive options of this team are incredible. The fact that you're probably going to have to rely on Heatran being more offensive every week is kind of a pain in the ass. So maybe on the lower side, I don't think I mentioned a team earlier that had defensive options at the wazoo, and I think still had a reliable offensive initiative. But relying on like a Hariyama and a Heatran as your offensive options probably might not work out. We'll see how it ends up. Not a Ranger has Stack Attack, which is alright. Everything else, again, this would be a nice Trick Room team, I guess, if you had Trick Room. Hitmontop and Miltank as a setter removal pair is kind of good. Lead Quillfish is always a pain to deal with. Nasty Plot, Z, Lovely Kiss. Jinx is going to be a pain. I don't know what else. He doesn't have a Volt Turn Core, which kind of stinks for Vikavolt, but if you don't have an answer to Vikavolt, I've been blathering on you the past couple of weeks, or last week, and Vikavolt has bodied my team because I just didn't have an answer for it. It wasn't even agility, I just didn't have a way to 2-hit KO with any of my offensive mons. So it could be a pain in the ass if you don't have anything to deal with it. Same thing with Stack Attack. If your team is very physically oriented, it's going to be a pain in the ass for you to deal with. Next we have Rice, which has a Noctowl. Rice Noctowl is a Noctowl, which is ridiculous. He has two Weather Sweepers, and he has a Weather Setter, but it's not. They don't work. Oh, that sucks. I think Bewear can set its own weather. I'm not sure if Stoutland can. But that sucks. I don't know how else to put that. This team gets an L because I think both no. Nothing's rated high because of its weather setting in this gen. It's not like last gen where like Drizzle and shit is relegated to OU. Because I think Politoed's like PU, Ninetales is PU, Beardic and Stoutland I think are still PU. I don't know how this team is 33 actually. I guess because Cobalion is still UU to my knowledge. So that's your breaker, and it kind of stinks. But I think as we've seen in like earlier teams, a strong physical fighting type is actually pretty nice for this. But anyways, moving on from a lackluster team to a low-key busted team is Astro Crystal, which has two of premier offensive threats and not a whole lot else. Geodude's gonna be really fucking nice. This team is actually the best offensive team that I think we've seen. Sunflora sucks in 90% of situations, but there's gonna be at least one situation where like the Leech Seed Protect set is just gonna body you. The removal option is shit because you don't want to run Lando as your defogger. So getting rocks up on this team I think would be pretty nice. Rocks and spikes, that everything's grounded except for Lando too, so spikes would be nice, and Solrock. This team has pivoting, which is good. This Viper I don't really know what does. Solrock can do some things, but it's going to be underwhelming. So as long as he keeps those first two mons alive, he's going to have no big issues. Next is Daddy. Mega Heracross I had in the first season of UTT, and it put in a lot of work, mostly because all the mons that are like PU and below are like base 50 and have some defenses, but they have Smackdown and Violate, and they can be like semi-bulky. So Heracross can break through most of those things, which is super nice. He has 0 speed on his team. Zedene's not a mon. And Kofag is basically it for his defense. So it's like the first team, but worse. Or like, not the first team, but the team before him and Astro Crystal. This team is... yeah, it's not good. Heracross is going to be a knockoff switcher, which I guess is nice. Clawitzer can be some sort of special, can break down like some physical walls with special hits. That makes sense. It can usually take 1 hit from a defensive mod, so that's good. Next we're going to go into Aven. His offensive pressure is... Alakazam's decent, Drapion's decent, Swablume's pretty good as long... If you don't have like a fire or flying support, Swablume's a bitch to deal with. Especially when things aren't going to be... Not every team's going to have a Tornadus there. So having some way to break down Swablume is actually going to be important in this league, or in this format at least. But Swablume and Jellicent should be a decent defensive core in this sort of situation. The fact that this league puts a reliance in hazard stacking is going to be great for Alakazam, since I think a lot of teams are going to want to get hazards up in this game. Unfortunately, his defogger is Pidgeot, which is no fun. I'm not sure if Swablume gets Sticky Web. I should probably really know that, but whatever. Next team, Tails' team is actually really freaking good. Lileep and Lilligrammer are going to come, but the other 6 are just incredible. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Tails is going to bring Lileep and Grimer, even though they shouldn't come. But everything else is really fucking good. Well, Traffic is bad, but, you know, compared to other teams, it's middle of the pack, unfortunately. But the Voltorn core is, you know, probably the best we're going to see. The Typhlosion is a decent early game wall breaker, or a late, probably not a late game on, but it can be an early game wall breaker. I think this team just has 4 decent breakers, and then you can use one of those breakers as a sweeper. So that'll be good to see. Nojon's team is, first off, this team is brown and yellow because Cubs are shit. This team doesn't have too much working with it. The hazard setting option is pretty nice. Gothitell's not shadow tagged, so that is kind of unfortunate for her situation. The Scrafty is going to, I guess, it can be a defensive option, but I think with the team and having Rhyperior already there and Klefki already there, unless he probably needs like a physical ground switch in, I think that would be the only situation where I would see like a physically defensive Scrafty, but otherwise I'd see like an AV or a Dragon Dance. Rotom would be nice. I think it'd be the ground switch I mentioned 5 seconds ago. Mothim, I think, runs every other starter bug type with like Sleep Pod or Quiver Dance, but I think it's probably the worst of the 7 now. Actually 6, or 8 because of Dust Toxin. Beautifly, I think. Anyways. No, 9 because there's Venomoth. Anyways. Stantler probably won't put in the most work. It'll switch into like 1 hit with Intimidate. He has an Intimidate core, that's actually kind of cool. Brion's not a mon. I don't think he's going to work in this league. Akatsuki. It's been so long since I've watched Naruto. Akatsuki. I fucking hate Levani, but it can actually live 1 hit in this league, so maybe it can get Sticky Webs up. For Ursaring, that's going to be a really cool option. Primeape, that's going to be a really cool option. Rotom Wash is going to be a bitch to break in this league because not every team has a electric type, and I don't think we've seen a Mold Breaker mon yet. So that's going to be interesting to see how Rotom Wash works in this league. I think this team actually has a lot of great mons. That's surprising that it's only 36. Sliggoo I think is underrated. I've used it twice now, and I think it's an underrated dragon type. Sneasel is an underrated ice type. I think that its tiering and its stats don't really bolster what it can do. Ice and Dark are just an amazing offensive combination, and I think pairing that with the fighting type is really nice for it. I think this team is a little bit too reliant on Rotom to break down water types. But besides that, I think overall it's really solid. Klinga's team is actually really nice. The Scraggy is shitty. But the fact that he has a solid removal option for Moltres is great. Moltres is an amazing wall breaker in general. And I think again, the same thing with Mega Heracross, it's when the teams are a little bit weaker and a little bit slower, Moltres becomes infinitely better. The fact that he has Aurora Veil support and no setup on is kind of worrying, but like you don't have to have setup with Aurora Veil. It'll just be nice if you need a rock switch, or you need support against like a hidden power rock for Moltres or something. Rhydon's kind of a shitty rocker, or Rhyhorn I should say. So the hazards are going to be that he's probably going to lose hazard games. But overall, I think his team is equipped with a solid first two mons and has support behind it. Kecleon is also a good rock. Oh, Kecleon's rocker. Yeah, don't bring Rhyhorn, Klinga. Next is Wendy. He somehow got a weather team, so that's really fucking stupid. Scolipede and Seismitoad are also really good mons. Pignite can be a decently thick answer. Simisage is also a really good grass type. It has a decent speed tier, so this team is actually pretty fast. Probably the better speed tiers that we've seen so far. But overall, all the team is really nice. Rio's team, that team's not good. I think Rio will make it work. I've seen him battle a little bit, and I think he's a pretty good battler, but his options are Hoopa and Crocodile. I guess maybe he has to rely on Hustle, Durant for offensive options. Molga is, I think, Molga's underwhelming. I think there's going to be somebody saying, no, Molga's broken or whatever. It's bad. That's bad. Moving on to King's team, also pretty bad. His team gets ranked a little bit higher because I think Drizzle Pelipper is rated a little higher. But yeah, if you take away that Drizzle, I think it goes down to like, I don't know, Pelipper would still be like an NU mon, I think. Because Hurricane and Hydro Pump are still really good moves. It has better bulk than Swanna, so I think it'd be NU. But that takes away a lot of points from this. Registeel is going to be a pain in the ass to deal with for most of these teams. And then Mismag is a decent breaker, or sweep. It can even be sweeper with the nasty plot support, but and Pinsir too. They're lower level, so if there's more, I think those can take on more popular defensive mons, so we'll see how that works out. Neon's team, is okay. I don't know what's okay is anymore, in all honesty. Conkeldurr is going to be it should be like an MVP of this, in all honesty. I love Conkeldurr, and I think when your teams are all slow and like a little bit bulky, as long as it's able to outspeed most of those slower, bulkier mons, it should be fine. Absol, I think, can put in a little bit more work than what it usually does. I don't have the highest opinion of Absol. Blossom, I think I think it's Sleep Powder and Can Quiver Dance. I think it has some sort of setup option. Again, don't quote me. I don't know what Chimecho does. I think Avon uses it in UDL, but I don't really know what it does in UDL. Alolan maybe is good. Maybe. I'm not sure. But Absol, Conkeldurr, Granbull, and Rapidash should be alright. I don't really know what is his hazard removal. Is that what Chimecho does? I'm not really sure. Maybe Chimecho is his hazard removal. But I don't think the team is kind of hazard weak in the same way that I've mentioned earlier, where it doesn't have any reliable recovery, so if it's forced to switch a whole lot, I think that wears down this team quite a bit. But I think Conkeldurr is good enough where it can carry it a little better than some of the lower ranked teams. Next we have Alex, which I don't know how this team is ranked 30 or has 38 points. Well, I kind of do. I think I forgot what tier Mega Bombs is ranked, I think, pretty high. Mantine 2U, I think, yeah, hazard removal is fine. This team's gonna win every single hazard support game. Bronzong is a fantastic hazard setter, and Donphan and Mantine are pretty good, has removal options. Electabuzz is an alright electric type, I guess. We haven't seen a lot of high profile electric types besides the Raikou so far, so I think it can put in a decent amount of work. This is one of the few teams that I would say that you don't have to worry about water types, because it's a lot of decent options. Charizard I've never seen used in its regular form, because it usually dies like in ladder whenever I face it in regular form, so I'm not sure what it will do. But I think the rest of the team actually supports it, or is pretty well based. I'm not sure if it's worth 38 points, but given the other 38 point teams that we've seen, maybe. But I'd expect a little bit more out of these higher based teams. Next is, I think this is Hispanic, because I think, yeah, he's the Long Island. Oh, Moongus is going to be a bitch. This team doesn't have, or Moongus, I guess it'll be a ground option. It takes neutral from ground hits, but there's not a lot of strong ground Earthquake users. His Excelgor, which will be a pain in the ass to deal with because nothing's going to outspeed it, and if you're allowed to run Modest and like slap Choice Specs on it, it's going to be, oh, it's going to be so bad. Mischievous, it can be annoying. It has 0 physical presence though. But the Moongus Togetic core is just, oh, that's going to be a pain in the ass to deal with. I think this team is worth 38 points. Pangoro is also going to be, like, Parting Shot into Ampharos is also going to be really good. I see this team doing pretty well, honesty. Next is Incineroar, who has Dodrio is going to, he said Dodrio is going to lead the tournament in kills, so we'll see it. Kingdra can probably work without rain support in this sort of format, because 95 is still a decent speed tier, all things considered, since not a whole lot of teams actually hit 100 base speed, or maybe they do it in like 1 mon, and then Dragon Dance can basically outspeed everything reliably. Having Steelix and Rotom as defensive options, having Mr. Mime is a decent specially defensive option, Steelix is a great physical defensive option. Bennett is, you know, it is what it is. The ability for Guts Wall Breaker on Raticate is going to be cool to see. But again, we'll see how it works out. And I think these are the last 3. So we got Derpinator 3001 with low-key busted team. I don't know if Vespiquen does. Everything else is pretty good. Spiritomb is going to be a bitch to break, because not every team has a fairy type. And so if it's like the rest Calm Mind set, it's going to be a pain in the ass. Because usually most teams like this format have a fairy type and then another dark type switch in, or a dark and or ghost type switch in. So like a Calm Mind set from, a Calm Mind rest set from Spiritomb is actually going to be horrible to face. I think Whiscash is, no, Blissey can do rocks, the Empoleon can do rocks, and I think Whiscash can also do, no, Whiscash can't do rocks. Yeah, Whiscash and Patrice are going to be kind of shitty. Vespiquen I think can do okay, as long as he can keep rocks out, which shouldn't be too much of an issue with Empoleon, and the fact that not every team has a Earthquake user. He has the Fire Water Grass core straight off the bat, the starter Fire Water Grass core, which supports a little bit. Blaziken's not speed boost, but again, I've talked about how much fighting types I think are gonna kind of run this, or at least mods with like strong physical fighting moves, and adding stab on it makes it infinitely better. So I think it's gonna do really well. Moving on to my team, hopefully I'm gonna do this in 3 videos where I'm gonna have this, and then my draft recap, and then maybe a live count of the finals game. Whether or not I'm in it, I'm not gonna be on it, but we'll see what happens. Ferrothorn I think carries a lot of this team, though. The Lycanroc Dusk will be okay. I think my hazard stacking options are on point. They're fine, and it's only Ferrothorn. Luckily, I have a lot of mons I can switch into fire types, because I think whereas like a Tyranitar is gonna suck, or Tyranitar is gonna suck to deal with, because not a whole lot of it can take a lot of special attacks, which like hidden powers are going to be running around. The Ferrothorn cannot take as many hidden power fightings as a Tyranitar can take. I don't know if I said that right. A Ferrothorn cannot take as many hidden power fires as Tyrannosaur can take hidden power fightings. So I think I have a decent team with Wailord and Fennekin and Guzzlord and Lycanroc to take fire type hits, but having to rely on those for I don't want to scout with those mons because Braixen's not going to last a whole lot. Braixen's not going to last forever. Wailord, I'd rather keep its health for Water Spout. Guzzlord will be alright. Again, there's not a whole lot of fairy coverage, so I think it's going to be a lot better, which is, again, why this is maybe pushed up a little bit more. Is Guzzlord is a shitty mon, but has really good stat type, or really good base stat totals, so that gives it a lot more points to it. And I think with the lack of fairy types in every single team, I think it's going to succeed pretty well. My default, or my removal option is Hitmonchan, which kind of sucks, but I'll make it do with it, I guess. I hate Hitmonchan, honestly. I've used it once, and it's not for me. But finally we have Elite Four Dan with the 41-point team that is because there's a lot of mons that are in BLs in Border, and I just pushed them up, so like a Doublade is alright. The Sharpedo is going to be a bitch to deal with. The Croagunk is going to be a bitch to deal with. I think his hazard setter is Rampardos, and his removal option is Claydol. Claydol might get Stealth Rocks, I'm not really sure. This team has some defensive options. I think is a better half of the team. I don't think it's going to be the top team. Like I'm not gonna make excuses for why my team's bad. I think my team's pretty good at like covering the other 40 teams, but I think this team is actually set down a little bit. I'm not sure if that makes my team the best or if there's another team that's like in the mid-30s they'll jump up. But I think this team is pretty decent. Carnifying kind of sucks, but Ditto's going to be good because there's going to be like random setup pawns everywhere that are going to try to sweep through these the glaring weaknesses in every team. So I think Ditto's going to be really nice. Sharpedo's going to break through a lot of teams. Croagunk, if it gets a setup or a SD up, is just going to be a pain in the ass. So I think this team's pretty good. Again, I don't know if it's the best team, but these were my very subjective metrics. So, I mean, I have my opinions, and I tried to listen as best as possible, but my opinions are in no particular order. I was trying to, like, makeshift move them up and down, but I just had them in a set order where they're, like, roughly transitioning. Don't think that this is my opinion. This was just, like, the best way that I could frame everything. My opinions were the words that said it off my mouth rather poorly, but I think they got a lot of the points across. But hopefully you guys liked the content. Thank you so much for watching if you made it through all this video. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.